Good evening, hello everyone, and welcome to the Babylon 5 Retrospective. Season 3, Point of No Return. This week on the show, we're talking about the most highly rated episode on IMDb of Babylon 5 in the entire series, Severed Dreams, episode 10 from season 3. But before we get into that, I've got to welcome the my co-host, the man who's always going to the Great Council and bringing all the Membari in. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, everyone. We have arrived at perhaps the pinnacle.
The pinnacle, the top of Mount Everest. It's all downhill from here. Damn. Yeah.
Well, it's a
All
comfortable
right.
plateau for a while.
Yeah, for a while. We're good. We're good for a while. Yes. Yeah. What am I talking about? This is a filler episode. You're right, man. I'm just trying to build up the show so that people will come and watch. It's all a trick. And of course, Dave is giving us greetings from the Narn security recruits. And a lot of them are gonna, rush into their death tonight for some
Don't
reason.
get ahead of yourself. Don't get ahead of
I
yourself.
didn't get ahead of myself. They just like going running in there. All right, so let's say hello to everyone in the chat. Hello to Dave and Umbras are the that's you, Dean. That's not your better half. That's you. All right. So I'm not gonna say hi to you guys. Oh, Q2's in the cast, or Q2 cast is here, of course. Good to see you. Another semi-regular on the show. Before we get into it, let me just remind you to please like and subscribe. We appreciate that. We are slowly creeping up 708 subscribers. Every week we get a little extra, whatever. That's good. We're trying to get to 1,000 overall. But we appreciate everybody comes here. And, hey, if you could drop a like and subscribe, help us push us up in the algorithm a little bit, that would be greatly appreciated. All right. Excellent. Okay, so let's... yes, we salute you. All right, let's bring in our regular co-panelist, Jeff, and our guest co-panelist for tonight, Dean. All right. Well, gentlemen, welcome.
Hello.
And Dean has been very active lately on his channel, pushing, talking about his new game that he's been working on that's almost ready to go, right?
It's not far. Just in editing now for our complimentary adventure, and then some condensed rules so you can create first-level characters from 8 of our 25 classes.
So how often are you putting out? You like to have a sort of a Q&A show you're kind of doing regularly?
We do. It's every Tuesday. At the moment, it's been running to about 2 hours, but we're trying to keep it down to 1 hour. And next Tuesday, we're talking some interesting stuff. We're talking about our spell mechanics and our gods within the game.
Spell mechanics always seemed a little weird in some of these games, so I'm curious to see what you do there. Yeah, semi-regular, more fiber. So if you're interested in RPGs, and go and you get to talk to Dean, and he'll tell you exactly how it's going with his game. You can ask him questions direct to the horse's mouth there.
You can.
All right. Yeah. So we had a couple people more jump in. We've got Weatherman, our most loyal viewer, has jumped in. Good to see you. Welcome. And just to let everyone know, there is Weatherman mentions it. The internet is acting a little wonky all day today. I don't know what's up. There's been some streams going on today that not every, chats have been disappearing and weird stuff has been happening. So, please bear with us.
I've seen it personally. So, yeah, I mean, it happened on 3 different streams I was watching today. So,
do you have any more information, Jeff, about it?
Nothing specific. It's just it seems to definitely have been affecting YouTube on their chat. I don't think Rumble was affected as far as I could tell, but it could be Restream might be having some issues connecting at least to the chats or something. Right now, it looks like they're there. So
it looks like everything's going good.
Yeah. So hopefully we're going to be smooth sailing. Hopefully they got
right.
Whatever.
And I'm pretty regular with the with bringing up the chat. So if all of a sudden no more chats come up for minutes, that means either you guys aren't saying anything or something's happening. You guys are saying nothing's coming up. Maybe there's something going on. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that and see how it goes. All right, before we get started on this excellent episode, we should hit the trivia. I gotta check my thing, make sure I do everything in the right order on my card. All right, so trivia answers from last week are supposed to be next. All right, let's do that. Hang up here though, that's the wrong one. But we'll get the right one. Trivia questions from last week were point of no return. Who is Lady Morella? And that's the character, not the actor. The actress, we know who that is. Who meets Jakar when he is released from prison? Who is not present when Zack arrives at his quarters? What does Lady Morella see in a telepathic flash? How many total chances does Londo have to redeem himself? That's total. That's not how many left. It's how many total. Yeah. Anybody?
5 chances?
You guys all know the answers, don't you?
Let's see. Lady
ask
Morella
you
was the third wife of the former emperor, right?
Right.
Jakar was released by prison actually by
who does he meet?
Garibaldi. Yeah.
No, but who does he meet when he's released? After he's released?
Ooh. Well, I mean, you're talking about Teloth or whatever his name is. His
Talon, yes,
Talon. Yes, of course.
Talon, yeah.
Waiting at his quarters. Yeah.
Who is not present when Zack arrives at his quarters? This is a little bit of a tricky one.
That
Sheridan.
that one is kind of Sheridan. Yeah.
Sheridan, because he's outside and he's like, get inside.
Yeah. He walks up behind him. He's like, look, we gotta have him.
Yeah, and of course, what does Lady Morella see in a telepathic flash? Londo dressed as the Emperor, and he has a total of 5 chances to redeem himself. Londo
2 of them have already been wasted.
2 of them
3 are before him. Yeah,
3 are before him, and the last one doesn't sound so great, but
no.
I think I want to use the 3 and 4 before I get to 5.
Can you phone a friend, or he wants to use a lifeline there?
All right. That is that's the trivia answers from last week.
It was a good episode.
We'll have the trivia. It was. We'll have the trivia questions for next week at the end of the show, of course. So are we ready to go? Did I miss anything, Cam? Should we get started with the quick summary?
Yeah, let's get to it. Okay, episode 54, season 3, episode 10, Severed Dreams, written by J. Michael Straczynski. Original air date, April 1st, 1996. Production order 310, so right in order. President Clark tries to seize control of Babylon 5 by force, forcing Sheridan and the command crew to declare Babylon 5 an independent state, breaking away from Earth Alliance and taking arms against Clark's government. Delenn confronts the Grey Council.
All right, on.
That's a good summary, yeah.
Yeah. All right, it looks like it's saying we got 11 people. Awesome. Let's get to it. Let me go through the little more detailed. The episode starts off with Londo complaining about Babylon 5, how slow it is to get through customs, and the Narns, they are not to be trusted and they have to be watched. Of course, Talon is sitting just outside of frame, and he basically says, "Oh yes, we are very untrustworthy, and the computer is not reading your card. Go over there and wait for 2 to 3 hours. I'll get right back to you, sir." He gets a little bit.
He kind of smirked a little too.
Yeah, and then we cut to a battle scene. The Alexander is under attack. It fires its aft batteries and destroys the Clarktown. I think it was the Clarktown.
I think so.
And then we hear a little bit of talk from the Major Ryan, who is captaining the vessel, about how he knew the captain of the Clarktown, and this war is different because we know who we kill. And then they say, okay, we're going to jump to Babylon 5. So Babylon 5 is going to get into it. And then that's the opening, and then we have the usual intro. We start off the show proper with the command staff talking. They know that the Alexander is on its way, and Sheridan has Garibaldi put a kill switch on the comms so that when they show up, they can prevent any outgoing information, so no one will know that they're at Babylon 5. Meanwhile, Lanier and Delenn are somewhere in the bowels of Babylon 5, and they're bringing Franklin in. They want him to save this Minbari, who is apparently a spy who's been on the unaligned worlds. Jakar shows up and helps and carries the guy so they can get medical aid. Meanwhile, on ISN, we hear that Mars says no to martial law and it will not implement it. Meanwhile, Sheridan and Ivanova back in the CNC. The Alexander arrives and he gives a little speech to everybody in the CNC. We will render aid, and he appeals to their humanity. And anybody who wants to leave can leave. I think that happens at some point. So we cut to the Minbari spy. He says basically the shadows are moving. Excuse me. They're urging chaos, and they are setting up. They're talking to the non-aligned worlds and encouraging them to fight their neighbors, hinting that hey, they've got support, and then of course they don't. But yeah, and that Delin asks about the Great Council, and apparently they are going to ignore what's going on. It's quote not our concern. Meanwhile, Major Ryan comes on to Babylon 5s. He mentions they're asking him what's going on Earth. We haven't heard anything. He says there are shock troops in major cities. How are the people? They're pretty much okay with it because crime has apparently gone down. And they ask him, and ISN is not reporting any of this because they are walking the line. They're concerned about getting shut down, but they do know that that Mars is not going to go along with it. So Mars might be the thing that can help Babylon 5 and be the center of this counter coup, I guess you'd call it. Meanwhile, just at that point, at the end, we find out that Earth Force is bombing Mars. Delin goes to see the Great Council. She gives a nice bit, she goes to see the Great Council. That's all she does.
Great Council.
We hear that she's going there. Meanwhile, the Churchill arrives, which is a pro Babylon 5 ship. They tell him that, hey, there's 2 ships on the way. They're going to try to seize Babylon 5. And meanwhile, the ISN reports the colonies are breaking away and troops are moving to attack the newsfeed, and the newsfeed stops suddenly. Sheridan brings his command staff together and he says, what are we going to do? Fight or surrender? And of course, they want to fight. And he gives orders.
Was the Earth ship?
He gives orders. He talks about, getting the fighter squadrons out there, being ready for this and that. Franklin, get your med lab in gear and all that good stuff. Meanwhile, Delin arrives at the Great Council. She gives a nice big speech, talks about their pride and shames them and the prophecy, and half of them leave with her. So it's pretty effective. And meanwhile, back on Babylon 5, Sheridan calls his dad. His nice little, human moment with him there.
Right.
He says goodbye, so to speak. Now, more preparation for battle. Sheridan gives a speech to everyone on Babylon 5. He basically says we're seceding from Earth. Meanwhile, Ivanova says, hey, I want to go out there in a fighter and fight. And Sheridan says initially no, but she goes, no, one of us have to be out there. And he's like, okay, out you go. The bad guy ships arrive. There's a little bit of talky back and forth. Don't do this. No, you don't do this. And we'll talk about that in detail. And then, of course, it doesn't work. There's a fight. Lots of lasers and things shooting around. And a breaching pod comes in. And they attempt to get into Babylon 5. And, of course, Garibaldi is dispatched with a bunch of the Narns. And he's like, hey, let's set up a defensive position here. And the Narns keep going and running. He's like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to fight further on.
Narns to the death.
There's a big battle. The Hiroshi, who's the captain of the other ship that arrived, she destroys a ship by ramming into it. One of the enemy ships has heavy damage. More ships arrive. Basically, Babylon 5 wins the battle with the 2 ships. And repeals the borders. However, more ships arrive. Just like, oh, we can't take much more of this. Good thing it's over. More Earth ships arrive. Mm-hmm. They're like, uh-oh. But luckily, the Minbari arrive right afterward. Delin is at the lead of them. She threatens the humans very effectively, and they take off. That's pretty much the end of the episode. It's we just sort of close things up. The aftermath. Garibaldi's injured. Sheridan gets a bunch of fighters from the Churchill, which was Hiroshi's ship, that got destroyed. Sheridan decides he's not going to wear his uniform until this battle, this whole conflict with Earth is over. He's a little bit, I guess, embarrassed, or he feels it's hypocrisy. Garibaldi and Sheridan are talking. They talk, hey, we're going to have a sabotage problem in the future. We better be ready for that. And Sheridan and Delenn have a little bit of a touching moment. And Ivanova says, hey, we want to take Sheridan. Hey, come in. I want you to see this. And he goes into sort of the main area of Babylon 5, and he gets cheered by the locals, by everybody. So I guess he's a bit of the hero. Yeah, all right. That's it. Where should we go for first, Cam? Let me go through the chat a little bit while we're doing this.
Okay, so we've got two main plots here. We've got a plot, which is the whole Babylon 5 attack, independence, and then we have a B plot, which is Delenn and the Great Council. But within these, there's some other strings and such. What I would like to suggest talking about first is this scene with the Ranger, Lanier, Delenn, and Jakar. Because it's even though we're kind of zeroed in, on what's going on with Earth, this Ranger's bringing very important news regarding what's going on, more broadly. So I'll start out a little bit there. So and then go to each of you for comments. So he said he's been among the non-aligned worlds. And he's reporting that they're basically all they first started kind of joining together in order to hold off the aggression of the Centauri,
right?
And then, but the Shadows have got their claws into them as well. So this is, we kind of know that the Shadows were doing all these different things. And a few episodes back, we learned that they had been active earlier than we thought, before the Icarus, when we found out what was going on with the buried ships, in the Sol system and everything. And now they've successfully twisted what was a defensive coalition into one where they think, oh, well, now because we're allied with the Shadows, we can win. We can be aggressors, basically. So that's, hi, welcome, Jason.
Hi.
That's it's like I said, it's setting the stage for the larger Shadow plan that's been going on for a long time, and now it's really kind of metastasized. So, well, again, let's start with Dean. What do you think about that whole?
I think the Minbari was a ranger, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
He seemed to have the ranger guard.
Yes.
And talking about the Shadows moving, it looked like they had created alliances with many of the non-aligned world for defense, knowing that these non-aligned worlds, so they use the Centauri. I mean, the Shadows are playing all sides in this conflict. They've spurred the Centauri on. They've created this huge war between the Narn and the Centauri, and they're using that then to get their claws, quite literally, into the non-aligned worlds by saying, oh, if you don't do something now and side with us, the Centauri are going to take you. But I love the words. The words were, what was it? The alliance of defense has grown into the dream of conquest. And I guess that's the Shadows again. Look, we got your back. Why don't you take over your neighbors? Why don't you move here? Why don't you move there? So you got this whole fracturing of the non-aligned worlds, this whole, they're warring amongst each other and everything. I think it's the first time the Shadows have started moving, not quite openly, but they're definitely showing their hand at this point. It's a definite escalation in that part of the story of Babylon 5.
Absolutely. And interestingly enough, and again, just kind of this whole scene, so we could discuss Jakar in here. He's kind of, he showed up, and kind of brought himself into the whole thing. And I thought in a really cool way, it was kind of like, I'm here to help, and I mean, he literally picks up the guy like a superhero. And I loved his line. They're like, how far can you carry him? He's like, as far as necessary, or something like that, as far as need to. Jeff, what do you think about that scene?
Well, I think it goes to show both not only the strength of a determined Narn, but also the the fortitude. Clearly, he is motivated
Mhm.
to do whatever it takes. He's felt this higher calling, and so maybe he's been imbued with some strength that above and beyond. Now
I thought
I was gonna say in the scene, now he did carry a dummy. They did point that out in the commentary, but
well,
um,
I think you made a good point there. That it was just this kind of a really simple instance, but it really was very impactful.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we haven't you haven't really seen an Arn pick up another person and just carry them like a sack of potatoes. So
Yeah.
Yeah, Jakar's really going out of his way to try and show his value or the value of his people to to not just Sheridan but Delenn. And I think it's mentioned a bit later on that Jakar's a very different person to the
Right.
one he was before.
Yeah.
And this is just part of that rebirth. And I like it.
Yeah. Okay, Jason. It's been a few episodes since you've been on. Are you all caught
Right.
up with?
Yeah, I think I am. I'm looking at this thing. Yeah, I did watch this episode. We watched it
Hopefully,
Sunday, I guess.
episode
Monday,
10,
I
right?
don't know. I was like, okay, I just need to make sure. So I'm looking at IMDb and I'm looking at the cast list and the description of the episode. Okay, yeah, I'm caught up. So I have
Any-
watched the requisite number of episodes now.
Anything about this scene with the Ranger and Jakar and the shadows you want to comment on?
Honestly, I mean, Jakar's arc has been an interesting one, certainly, and this idea here that he's suddenly it's interesting that his arc involves his faith more than it is any kind of a political movement, and it is a political movement, but it's informed by his enlightenment, his religious enlightenment, what he's learned about himself, the insights that he's gained from study and meditation and all of this. And I think it's really interesting to see where he started versus where he's at now. And the other thing, his confrontation with Sheridan, he's like, I want in. And it's like, you want in what? That was this episode, right?
That was
that was the one before, but yes.
Was
Yeah,
it was before? Well, the fact is they're going, oh come on, I've been on this station for how long? You think I'm gonna miss this kind of thing? But I think you're right. I think
well, he's in now.
He's in
Yeah, I
now.
think this
Yeah.
this is showing us that he's worming his way in anyway somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and using Narn for security and all of that, I think it was an interesting touch too. He's like, I have an idea. It's like,
Well,
oh, do you?
Yeah, that's so basically he bought his way in by being useful, by providing the things they needed, right? You know, and what better way to do that, to prove that you are valuable than by being valuable. Snob, what do you got to say about this?
Yeah, I want to ask a question. Where does the title for this episode come from?
So the that actually was mentioned at some point in the commentary, and the original dream for Babylon 5 was to be a peaceful way for all these different civilizations to come. It was the dream of the Babylon stations to be a place for everybody to come together and negotiate in peace.
The last
This is
best hope for peace in the galaxy.
Right. This is the definitive episode at where that dream has now been shattered. And that's where the title of it comes from. That's from JMS himself. So
I'll also mention that if you notice that the Mimbari Ranger here, he talks about, when he's talking about the non-aligned world, excuse me, he says, the dream of conquest. And so, in a sense, their dreams
what
are
do you want,
sort of
right?
severed as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back to what do you want? Well, they want to be powerful like the Centauri. They want to be powerful like the the Mimbari and the Earthers, and I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we? I'd like to talk about because there's it's kind of segmented. So let's talk about the command staff and their discussion of where they are, because again they're sliding towards this inevitability at this point, and they really don't have much of a choice. But they do have discussions about it, how they're going to approach this, because um, they get word that the trouble's coming to their doorstep, and they've kind of held out this hope that they played this kind of game with the Night Watch, that they didn't follow the chain of command, so they were able to arrest them, and they knew it was coming, but officially, throughout this episode, I mean, this is the episode where we see them go from being loyal to Earth officially to officially being renegades, and we kind of see that in the characters, and they're just what I take to be like resignation for the whole thing. Let's start again with Dean, and again you could talk about their interaction with Major Ryan and Hiroshi and everything here, kind of everything leading up to before the battle starts.
Yeah. When we finished the last episode, it was on the words, "They will come for us soon." And as we discover in this episode, the Alexander arrives, it needs repairs. And Major, oh God, what's the Major's name again? Ryan, thank you. Major Ryan brings news that there are more ships on their way. And you got Sheridan going, well, you need to jump then, and he's, no, they were on their way already to take control of Babylon 5. And that was kind of alluded to at the end of the last episode. And I think I think it's that moment when you've got, and I forget the technical term, someone can correct me, but where you got the zoom in and the zoom out at the same time with Sheridan as he sits down.
Yeah, that is affectionately known as the vertigo shot. A Hitchcock cinematographer invented that.
Yeah.
Oh, where he's sliding. There's the camera panning to the right, and the character's walking to the left, or vice versa.
No. I think it's where the camera moves in.
The camera. What happened? The way you do it, the camera moves out. It's called a truck move. The camera comes away from the subject. So in this particular case, Sheridan.
Right.
The camera pulls back at the same time, zooming in, and that gives that stretching distortion effect that was invented for the movie Vertigo.
Yeah, and it's the feel. And again, in this case, it's on Sheridan, and it's the feeling of everything closing in around. It's like just landing on him.
Because he did mention that he did use Hitchcock's. He took that from Hitchcock. That style.
Everybody is taking that shit from me.
He freely says it.
It can be overused. I've seen it overused a lot in certain things, but I think in this instance,
it was Jaws.
It was perfectly used. I thought you really feel you're getting inside Sheridan's head here, and he realizes a decision has to be made, and that decision will affect not just him, his command staff, and his entire staff, plus everybody on board that station. It's that realization that you've gone past now the point of no return. This is it. You either stand or you get taken. And
well, that point is even made. When Sheridan has to make this decision, and I think he rightly was pointed out that he's already made the decision at a certain point before he even pulls. He's come to that decision, and it's codified after he talks to his father. He kind of makes peace with getting everything off his conscience when he does talk to his father, but he wants to make sure that everybody has their say, and every one of them says fight, and we knew they were going to. I mean, obviously, because it's like you said, it's either you fight or you're going to be killed or taken prisoner.
Yeah.
and eventually hung or whatever, it was spaced or whatever they might do to you. You know, they're not going to let you out one way or the other.
You're
Well,
too dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, and Franklin kind of he lays it out. It's like, well, if we surrender, we're going to be arrested, and if we fight, we're going to be killed. Kind of thing. It's like, well, two great options there.
Yeah.
One note I want to make is when before the Alexander arrives, he has to address this with his staff, not the command staff, but the rest of them, because and I thought it was a very powerful instance that it's he says he and the commander Ivanova have made this determination, and it's like he's relying entirely on his leadership, their leadership, and the trust that the crew has in him, to kind of carry this. And like you mentioned, he gave this bit of a speech about doing the right thing, and that we're not enemies and all that stuff. And I thought that was really really good.
And this gets reiterated throughout the whole episode.
Yeah,
that he is like giving the other ships, that at this point the enemy, the Earth ships that are the enemy, every opportunity to look. You don't have to do this. This is an unconstitutional order. You should this is and they won't listen.
No. They've got their orders. It's his appeal to humanity. As much as humanity has got us, our humanity's got us into this. It's our humanity that will get us back out.
Right.
And it's a very human-centric kind of plot. But he's trying to reassure his command staff. He doesn't ask anybody to leave on the first one, but before the fighting breaks out the second time,
when they're on the CNC.
He on CNC says, before you break any regs, if anybody's not comfortable, and I think one person
did leave, and he made a note about that too, that JMS did. He said you always see where everybody's like, yeah, go, we're all behind you, Captain, but that's not everybody's going to be like that. There are going to be some people that are just like, I didn't sign up for this. Know?
Well, and it's also a little bit of payoff for the lieutenant that they were wondering about.
Right.
Right. He's kind of maybe we don't bring him in. And then when it comes down to it, push comes to shove, and it's time to put cards on the table. He's like, well, I guess I'm along for the ride. Let's go.
In for a penny, in for a pound, right?
Well, yeah. And each one of them had to make that determination. We've heard a lot of talk about illegal orders and such. And, Sheridan stood up there and he laid the case out kind of, which is what a superior officer is supposed to do. And then, he handed it to them. He's like, okay, now it's your choice.
They are openly attacking civilians on Mars.
Yeah,
they are going to go do the same thing to, the other two colonies, all the other Earth colonies. Yeah. So it's like just a matter of time. They're making a stand, and at some point, I know we'll get to the ISN scene.
Stop. What do you got?
No, I think everybody covered it really well. There's a number of great points by everybody. There's a number of great speeches in this episode. I think we should keep going and talking.
Yeah, Sheridan and Delenz both.
Sheridan's got a good speech. Especially his one. I especially liked his one to the Earth Alliance enemy ships. Especially like that one, and Dylan's got some good ones, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon.
Yeah. Well, okay. Does anybody have any? We were kind of talking about that. What about the interaction with Major Ryan and Captain Hiroshi? Jason, you got anything on that?
Not anything specific. No.
Okay, that's fine. Jeff.
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting. We're seeing really who was the second in command in charge now of the Alexander, because General Haig he's explained as the case was, and of course they're under attack and they're trying to get themselves out of there. They've already lost their captain, so he's now the captain.
And they had already lost other ships, that were with them in the previous episode.
Right.
Yeah, they lost the 3 other ships there were 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And as Madman pointed out, the actor that wound up having the role was not the one that it was originally intended. Same last name.
Get that McGill guy.
Yeah, get that McGill guy. He was on Twin Peaks, the guy that they were looking for, and he said, no, just hire him outright and just bring him in. And he showed up the day of shooting, and he's like, that's not the guy. So they had to make some. If you notice, his uniform was a little snug, but it actually fit. It fit him, his character, because it made him almost stand out a little more. Because he is almost kind of uncomfortable in that position. He's he's a I don't know what's a good word for it.
Well, Bruce McGill has always been a good character actor.
Yeah.
He's very reliable in that sense. And the fact that you end up with this situation simply because the guy playing General Haig was not available in the schedule. Like,
and then the wrong actor, then the wrong actor,
the wrong
was
actor,
cast.
yeah.
But it turned out that he was actually probably the better choice for this role.
Yeah.
In the end, because
I think
he does play that.
I think it's funny too. You've got Robert Foxworth doing this, and he plays Admiral Late in the DS9. I don't know if anybody has noticed, but the guy running Night Watch, he ends up as an admiral on Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
He was.
Oh, that's him.
He's the Starfleet boss. Yeah. I can't remember the name of the character that he played over there, but yeah, he's Archer's boss on Enterprise.
That's funny. There's a
with darker hair.
I guess it's a just swap characters between shows. They borrow secondary characters a lot.
Well, and what's funny is and we make a joke about that, but in the 90s especially, all of the science fiction shows were running Admiral Forrest. Yeah, thank you, Madman. All of the shows, all the science fiction shows in the 90s were trading actors. Because you see this especially on Stargate, where so many Star Trek: The Next Generation alumni show up on Stargate, and some of that I think has to do with the fact that back then, if you were a science fiction actor, you were a science fiction actor, and there was a very limited number of people that would fit in that would be willing to live in that stable, as it were. It's kind of where up until a certain point, movie actors didn't do television. Now it's all kind of everything's the same as everything the actors does or whatever they do. And at that point in the 90s, especially, science fiction up until a certain time period, up until like the 2000s, 2010, up until a certain point, science fiction had this stigma. And if you were an actor and you were doing science fiction, then you weren't doing any other legitimate acting work.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it doesn't carry that same restriction to it. It's a science fiction thing. Okay, fine, whatever. It's a paycheck.
Yeah.
But back then, you had a limited number of people who were willing to do science fiction. And so you see everybody shows up on everybody's show.
Well, McGill was Captain Braxton in Voyager.
Yeah.
So, and of
right.
course, I kind of he was in the pilot and final episodes of Quantum Leap. But I kind of
we were watching this and Minnie's like, he looks familiar. Why do I know him?
Well, I was expecting Richard Dean Anderson to walk in and try and fix something.
Right. Well, normally, anytime Mindy recognizes an actor is because they've been on 90210. And this time she's like, I reckon. Why do I recognize this guy? He wasn't on 90210. He was on Voyager. He was on the time travel episode where they're sending Seven back and forth. He's like, oh yeah, I guess that says something about me. I'm learning something.
Let me make a point about that. When the conversation with Hiroshi and Dean, I think you mentioned this, that again, the Sheridan keeps, it's like they haven't quite let go of the hope that they could resolve this, with Mars going on. But when they got the news, like they were already on their way. It's like and so there's that, and then there's the bombing of Mars, and then the scene with ISN, which we could talk about a little bit. It's like, I think all of those things were effectively made. It's like, there's no negotiating with this guy. There's no dealing with him. He's a psychopath, or, maybe not a psychopath. He's an enemy, right? Clark, I mean, and it's like, there's no compromise here. You are, this is the fight or surrender moment, right? Which of course they have a discussion on.
You're right that there's a number of things that happen quite quickly, one after the other, which is the Churchill arrives, Hiroshi gives the bad news, ships are on their way, ISN is taken offline, and you can, you got the building being stormed, you got the one guy. I don't know who the guy was, but he talked to, he cuts off Jane. Jane's the presenter, and I think he must be one of the producers then of ISN, but he's trying to get the truth out there before being taken offline. And then you get told the Agrippa, sorry, and the Roanoke are on their way. And I think in total, it's the two destroyers. They backed up by two frigates. So it's obvious by that force they weren't expecting two more destroyers to be at Babylon 5, because you've only got two destroyers and two frigates versus a station, which is fine, but the station and two additional destroyers, that actually evened out the fight. So yeah, I love this because everything seems to make sense. Everything has a flow throughout the episode, and it just keeps building. Every time you think, from the opening where they talk about this is a different war. Did you know the wife of the Clarkstown? Sorry, did you know the captain of the Clarkstown? Yeah, I knew him. I knew his wife, 3 children, a cat called Max. It's bringing it all very down to a personal level. And you now got this news just building and building and building, and it's.
You know what, Jason, you made a point about him, about he's a solid character actor, and he really, I mean, again, he just stepped into this show and really, like you just said, Dean, about, the thing about knowing the guy's family and everything. He really brought that home, with that scene. I thought it was an excellent job he did there. Yeah. But what about the rest of you guys about the ISN thing? To me, that is, I mean, imagine watching this in real, and there have been instances like this, in the real world, right? Where it's like this just is unfolding in front of your eyes. It's like, the mask is off, and
controlling the media, so you control the narrative.
And the guy and I like how Jane was like, she's like, don't do, I mean, she's like trying to
don't do this,
right? Because she knows what's coming, and he's like, it doesn't matter anymore. We have to, I mean, he was desperately just trying to throw out the information to hopefully have some effect. Jeff, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, tyranny, tyranny's playbook is controlling the media. We've already, Clark has already put people in key positions all over the place. He's replaced people with people that he trusts, that is on his side, and nobody. It's now at the point where he's effectively got complete control of Earthdom. The colonies are of course resisting, and this has been a theme throughout the whole thing, right? But ISN has been maybe kept in check a little bit, but they've still been able to do some actual reporting up until
I mean, they had reported on, for example, the fact that there was this claim that Clark had been involved in Santiago's
right,
murder.
And I think that's when the switch was flipped. At that point, well, we've got to control the narrative.
I'm sure they
have to take more control. So well, it was kind of interesting to see that, and you actually see the Thunderbolts introduced in this episode.
Oh yeah,
yes,
which are the Star Furies that have wings that can fly in an atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Yeah,
apparently that was a whole new thing. Yeah.
Well, why don't you describe that scene a little bit more in detail?
So you actually see these ships, and they look very much like Star Furies, and then they have these wings that kind of sweep out, much like almost like a F-16 or whatever, like they would do. And as they come down in the atmosphere, and they are actually launching missiles at the domes on Mars. They're literally, and the people are begging and pleading. They're like, we have there's women and children here. What about the women and children? And it's like, it doesn't matter to them at this point.
Didn't deter him at all. It was just,
Yeah. You got that black visor of the pilot, and you can't see the pilot, but there's no emotion beneath that. They're just carrying out their orders.
Like
the Omega Squadron. Yeah,
that's like the stormtroopers in Star Wars. When you take this mask with the visor, you completely dehumanize them. They're not real. They're almost automatons. Robots. They're robots.
Right. They're just killing.
They're not. I mean, they are humans. They're just.
I'm exhausted right now, so I'm.
They are. They are clearly dedicated to the cause.
Automatons.
Snob, what do you got? What do you got about this? You're a military man.
Well, there's also there's a bunch of books about killing. And one of the things that the part of the reason we develop weapons to make it easier to kill, but also to introduce an amount of psychological distance between you and the thing that you're going to kill. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot easier to fly at 30,000 feet and drop a bomb on a village and kill 1,000 people than it is to beat one man who's right in front of you to death with your fist. So so you've got that aspect of it usually is pilots usually is easier for them, but you guys brought up the very point which is great about the whole flying over them and just dropping a bomb. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything. The whole the fact that they're they've got this mask on, they're trying to make them as dehumanizing them as much as possible. I think you guys brought up that stuff. That's really great. The fact that the guy's on the radio and he's saying, hey, don't he's trying to humanize the people that they're about to kill, and they still do it. So that further cements in the sort of the evil that the Earth government has become.
Killing. They've become the empire. To use that analogy again, they are the bad guys now, officially. At least as far as that can go. The ships themselves are really kind of cool. We will see them again later on in this episode and in the future, I suspect. But the whole thought that they're just gonna wipe out their own people, and maybe at this point they consider them to be, they've been brainwashed into thinking, oh, these people are traitors, they're whatever.
Well, that's part of the reason why we use that too, to dehumanize the enemy.
Calling
them traitors, calling them some sort of
derogatory
racial
name,
slur, derogatory term. That's to help dehumanize them. And we've used it throughout history.
And
I'm sure I don't think we see that in this movie. At the very end of the thing, we see something about, there's a sort of a torn down poster that says something about traitors.
It's ripped
it's at the very end, and you see that throughout the episode, but at the very end, it's very prominent.
We don't really see the one side dehumanizing the other, trying to overtly like that, but you can assume it's going on in the background.
But the Babylon 5, the people on the light side are not trying to do that.
No. Yeah, exactly.
They are trying to do exactly the opposite. They are trying to plead to the humanity that may still. They're trying to. They know there's still good in them. I can sense it. You know what I'm saying. As to the point that you were talking about, with the military trying to do. That is something that has been done. If you look at targets, you start off with just a target that's a bullseye, and then you start moving to silhouettes. And I've seen some documentaries where they're talking about one of the reasons why they use silhouettes is to dehumanize the enemy, so that soldiers can fire at a human form and not think twice about it.
Yeah.
So
the one thing I found fascinating with the whole sort of the ISN thing is obviously this was filmed during a time when social media really wasn't a thing. So all your news had to come from official news sources, or rumors and hearsay. So ISN actually saying, Orion 7, Proxima 3 have broken away. That news has been suppressed. And it was to give people on Earth a hope. Look, you're not alone. Mars isn't alone. Mars isn't acting, on its own. There are other colony worlds which also agree that Clark needs to be removed.
Mars was always kind of a problem, right? It was they were always the kind of the rogue ones, so that wasn't a surprise, and they reported on that. But I'm sorry. So go ahead.
No, it's okay. And yet, Vicky raises a good point. We always see the dehumanizing through Nightwatch, where they talk about traitors, they talk about insurgents, they talk about people who are betraying Earth. They never use names, they never use human sort of descriptions. It's always creating the other, and the other must be hated and controlled.
It's the playbook. It's the playbook.
Nightwatch are the brown shirts. They're the Stasi. They're the But the other thing too, you mentioned the social media. This is also a time when this show was made in the 90s. You had limited alternative media. I mean, Fox News had just started. Rush Limbaugh was out there. And that was pretty much it. You had your major networks. You had, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, CNN, and I mean the Fox Television Network, not Fox News. You had CNN, and MSNBC had started up at some point in there, and that I don't even think MSNBC was around yet. CNN made their bones in 91,
right, with the Gulf War,
when the Gulf War happened, and
they embedded with troops and stuff like that. So
not only that, but I remember watching CNN. Bernard Shaw and John what was his name? He passed away a number of years ago. John something. They were in Baghdad when the balloon went up, and they're at the hotel, and you didn't get video. So there was a camera pointed out at the city, and they were on the phone, or they were, and it was one of these really fascinating points in time where you're looking at this, and not only are you seeing history unfold as the war begins, but as a media guy, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, this is historic in terms of media stuff as well. This is real-time news reporting on the ground on this cable network that nobody's heard of. And it changed the landscape for news forever, because now suddenly we're 24/7.
Yeah, and ISN really is kind of patterned off of that.
It's in CNN,
right? Which, again, by today's standard, no one would look at that and probably, if someone watched Babylon 5, it's ISN, it's like, oh yeah, these are 24-hour news networks. But at the time, it was relatively new, and so JMS incorporating it into the show was interesting. Of course,
interesting that there was only one.
Well,
right, but at the time, at that day and time, there was only one.
Yeah.
Well, during the franchise war, it was the only one that went out, including Taco Bell being the only restaurant you could go to.
Oh, well,
a nice Demolition Man reference there.
I got that. Unless you were over on your side of the pond, where apparently it was Pizza Hut.
Yeah,
Pizza Hut. Yes.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut.
Everybody in America is like, Pizza Hut was not in demolition, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah. It was, by the way, it was John Holloman who was there. Peter Arnett was also there.
Peter Arnett.
And
yes.
you had, but Peter Arnett was not an American. He was also there. I think he was a
English or-
British guy,
British, right?
Yeah.
and that also brought to bear the international scope of what CNN was trying to do as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a heck of a time.
That might have been about the time that Headline News launched. You know, when they went when they had
Well,
the
let-
Headline News and CNN became the focus.
Let me touch.
know.
Let me touch on a few kind of miscellaneous things here, and we could roll back to them if we want to. Just in terms of the prep, because I want to go to the Delenn stuff. next,
Yes,
if-
yes.
But there was a few things that happened at the beginning of Act 3 where they talk briefly about trying to get Drawl with the Great Machine to help, and Sheridan's like, no, let's keep that in our back pocket. He does, of course, use the holographic system, which they arrange, but
Right.
they kind of double check with Jakar about the security guys, and it's like, yeah, the Narnar, they're all in on this. Now they have increased security, and Sheridan makes the point. He's like, he's kept his promises. So again, this whole thing about he's bought his way in with real action, and
He's
then
he's proven himself. It basically under
Yeah.
under tough conditions, he's actually stepped up to the plate for a change. He's clearly making a point that, look, I am not the same Jakar you knew early on in the
Right.
show.
And then Franklin, he's clearing out patients out of med lab because there's going to be casualties. I mean, again, it's just this kind of, Gene, I think you mentioned the buildup. It's like each thing.
Yeah.
It's and this episode is very effective at it. Okay, but we do cut away to because Delenn had said that she was she's going, and they have the scene with Sheridan and her and such, and she's leaving. And they say, they get her clearance out because, everything's going crazy. Everyone's trying to get out of here, because they know what's coming. But
she's priority clearance to get out.
right.
Yeah.
So she does show up, we're at, with the Great Council ship, and has a encounter with a functionary of some sort, and basically threatens him that she's going to be heard. And
I had the blood of Vale or of what's his name?
Cut. Yeah.
On my hands and
his words in my mouth. Yeah.
Yes.
On my lips. Yeah.
There's an interesting parallel here because remember what I mentioned before about Sheridan, and his leadership is what's kind of holding them together, and the trust in him. And now Delenn is asserting her. She's not officially in this position anymore, but she holds this, like she gives her resume essentially, like you just mentioned, and she's by the force of her will, pushing.
I'm gonna talk to him. Damn it! And you're not gonna stop me. Move out of my way, or I
will tear the ship apart with my hands.
Yes.
Until I find them. Yeah.
So who wants to go into more detail about
Dean? You've got all the lines.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go on. I find this scene fascinating because, of course, you got Valen's prophecy, and Valen always prophesied that the Grey Council would be dissolved.
Right.
So Delenn's just carrying out this prophecy, and so far Valen's prophecies have been very accurate. And so she arrives at the council. She walks in. We already know there are 4 members of the warrior caste. Only 2 of the religious, 3 of the worker caste.
Yeah.
And she walks into this council, talking of them that she spent 3 years warning them this would happen. She followed Valen's teachings, and she was warning them. We've seen the signs. This is going to happen. She was told. She had pride. She was being presumptuous. For 1,000 years, they've been waiting for these prophecies to be fulfilled. And when they happen, the council refused to act. It refused to acknowledge that this is the time that they need to start acting. And it's a lovely way. She brings in the we stand between the candle and the star, the darkness and the light. But the council is no longer serving its purpose. The one thing, so when she breaks the staff, it reminds me very much, and I know JMS got a lot of influence from this, but it reminds me very much of Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, because there was a lot of staff breaking within that. Saruman, your staff is broken, stuff like that. But you get a real feeling that power is being taken. And it's the breaking of the staff. and it's Delenn then walking out with more than half of the council by on her side, leaving only the warrior caste remaining.
Well, there
Um,
was only 3.
There were only 3 remaining, were there?
That
I thought there was 4.
I watched it twice, and
Yeah.
I think there was only 3. So she obviously must. To me, she must have convinced at least one member of the warrior cast.
Well, it
Well,
wouldn't
Probably
have been the
somebody
room.
that.
I
There
don't think
was-
so.
You don't think?
I think you're miscounted, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there were 4. There were 4 left at the end.
I thought so as well, but
I
It's-
counted the
it's
ones who
inter-
left.
It's
Did you?
interesting too that Straczynski, being an atheist, gives us this almost accidental parallel with New Testament and the appearance of the Messiah, where you have this prophecy all through the Old Testament. You have this prophecy: the Messiah is coming. The Messiah is coming. He's going to save everybody. And when you get to the point where Jesus is actually born and incarnate and walking the earth, you have the Sadducees and the Pharisees that don't want to have anything to do with him because he threatens their power. He threatens their control over the Jewish faith. And as I'm sitting here hearing you guys talking about it, I was like, that's very much like how that was with the Sanhedrin, not wanting to acknowledge Christ's ministry at all and doing whatever they could to kill him. And now I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen to Delenn and half a dozen episodes. So,
well,
I don't survive.
JMS is he is an atheist, but he's clearly very interested in religion, at least academically. You know what I mean? And because it does come up in the show quite a bit. But that's an interesting point.
I wanted to mention that there's, talking about this scene, there is at the very end of the scene, the people are walking out, and there's one member who stays, who grabs one by the arm, and that person sort of look at each other, and they shake off the arm and keep walking. So I thought that was a little bit of an interesting little twist in there.
So I just did a quick check, and so you may be right. There may have been 4. It said primarily of the warrior cast, which means that she may have convinced some of the warrior cast to come, and it's possible that some of the others opted to stay.
We can't tell who.
You can't. You
I
can't tell.
I didn't want to mention this because it's one of the trivia questions, but 5 walk out and 4 remain.
She specifically references.
But we don't know who.
She calls out the warrior cast specifically, and says if you won't do it, then the religious and the worker caste will, or basically, I mean. And so I would find it very surprising that a worker or I would find it impossible that a religious caste would stay behind.
But I could see one worker, and I could see someone of because remember there was there's I think that she first of all, she pled her case well. We don't know who was who. In this particular scene, the veils over their faces were very obscuring. And actually, that was the director, not JMS, that made that decision. But I think ultimately it worked out because it was almost as if they were embarrassed to be put in that spot. That's how it felt to me. That
she's totally shaming him.
Yeah, and that they were not willing to live up. Listen to
the one thing that I would say against warrior cast joining this is that we know the White Stars have been built without them, right? It's the worker cast that's built them, and the religious cast is manning them, along with some worker cast, I think, as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, but this is interesting. Again, we haven't heard a ton about Valen. We have heard bits and pieces, but they've all known about this long-standing prophecy, and Dean, I think you mentioned, she's fulfilling it, and Jason, it kind of brings up to your point. It's where she calls them out for being, it's like you called me arrogant, but you're the ones that are setting aside this this prophecy that we're all supposed to believe in. It's a foundation of our culture, and now you're putting yourself above that.
Mhm.
And hypocritically calling her prideful, and such. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I just thought it was a great scene.
It was.
Well, and
yeah.
the additional irony there is that she's the outcast that they got rid of, and is coming back in, calling them out for it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would guess that. I mean, I haven't seen beyond this episode, but I would guess that the 5 leaving are not the warrior cast, and the 4 warriors stay, because we have that split on the council. We know that they've broken in the sense, because they're not even anymore with the 4 warriors on the council instead of 3. And I would assume that if I was writing this episode, I would be like, okay, this is a point where where there's a split between the Minbari, and maybe I'm going to use that later on in my story. So you've got the warriors on one side and then everybody else on the other. That's a further area that I could explore. So I'm guessing that it's probably the 4 warriors that would have stayed. It makes it more interesting later on.
You do wonder what this will have long term, because effectively Delen's removed their form of government and rulership.
She's dissolved the parliament, or the Great Council.
Yeah,
Right, and
exactly.
which has
So-
they're back to a pre-Valen kind of situation now, where it's the different houses and everything, and
And we know or rather, it's alluded to that before Valen came along, the Minbari weren't unified. I think the warrior caste very much controlled things, and there wasn't balance amongst them. And Delen's just now removed this balance. But it's all been prophesied. So.
Well, let
Okay.
me ask though a question for you guys who know a little more. Now, the just on the Minbari, like the Grey Council is not there. It's a secret governing council. They suggest things. They're not the real government, are they? Or am I mistaken on that? My impression was that they're kind of quasi secret. Maybe they influence the government a bit, and but the normal people don't know about it necessarily. Earth didn't know about it. Is that
No? My understanding is the Grey Council are so within Minbari society, the members might not be known. You don't know who. I think typically you don't know who's on the Grey Council other than the leader. But it is a form of government, and it directs society within Minbari culture.
Yeah.
Now we do know that there are things like ministries of whatever. So there probably is a full functioning layer below them. That normal people would deal with.
But yeah, effectively, I think Jeff, you said it. It's Parliament. It's our equivalent of Parliament. These people who come along, they come up with the direction the nation should go, and then there's a lot of departments and civil servants underneath that carry out those instructions.
Or perhaps the presidency wrapped into 9 people type of thing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Other than you haven't got your checks and balances with Congress and Senate.
Like Paramount Pictures with their 3 co-CEOs.
So to the point that I made, apparently I'm not the only one out there saying that it's possible that at least one member of the warrior caste may have departed with her. That is a prevailing theory out there in some areas of people that debate it.
Yeah.
So
they would have pointed to the shoulder, the hand on the shoulder of one of them leaving, as though one of the warrior castes were like, no,
very
we're
possibly,
united,
yeah.
And the other one then left to join the Lent. So possibly.
Okay, your theory is noted, Jeff.
All right, I'm just saying.
Your theory is wrong, and we shall
our
never
AI
speak of it again.
overlords have spoken.
Okay.
The theory is wrong, and we shall never speak of it again.
Okay, let's move back to Babylon 5 now.
We're doing like the show.
No. I mean the location of Babylon 5. So now you've got this. It's coming to a head now. But Sheridan decides he wants to talk to his dad.
Right.
Who would like to discuss that? Jason, you want to talk about that, or?
Well, I think it's an interesting scene because that's your point of no return moment for Sheridan, because up until then, he hasn't fully 100% decided what he's going to do. He knows what he's going to have to do. He doesn't want to have to do it.
Yeah.
But he's you have that inevitability. This thing is moving forward, and you're kind of riding on top of a tornado, and you just got to make the best of it. So when he
and
calls his dad, he's like, "Okay, this is this thing," and Dad's like, "Yeah, we've seen what's going on here. I know what you're about to do. You got to do what you got to do," and
Yeah.
basically gives this tacit stamp of approval because I know my kid. I know what my kid's going to do. I know what my son's going to decide here because I raised him to do the right thing.
Right.
It's completely opposite of Jonathan Kent standing there for the tornado to grab him. It's the father understands what the son is about to decide and says it's okay. We can take care of ourselves. We're perfectly fine. All the neighbors like us. Nobody's going to do anything to us, and we've got our guns, and we're ready for them to come get us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and that's a great point, Jason, because throughout this whole episode, it's like you could just kind of see in the back of his head, he's like, I don't want to, I don't want to do, even though he's doing everything he needs to. It's like you could tell that it's just like he's dreading it. It's like I don't, and who would, right? It's like who would want to be forced into a situation where you have to take up arms against your own people, and of course we've already seen that kind of portrayed with Major Ryan, the thing real effect of it. And it is that last bit where he needs someone that can back him, and no one on the station can do it. He's the man in charge, but talking to his father he's maybe the only guy that can do it. You know what I mean? That can give him that.
It's also
buck
one of
stops
those
here with Sheridan.
Yeah, it's also one of those things where if I'm about to do this very dangerous thing, Carter, the President Carter, can grab my family and use them against me.
Right.
Clark
And Clark, not Carter, Clark, and Sheridan Senior is saying, "I know that's a possibility. Go do it anyway,
Right.
and don't worry about us.
We'll be okay."
Yeah.
We'll be fine. Yeah. And
I think it's even. I mean, I think those are all good points, but I think it also shows that Sheridan must have a significant amount of thought that he might fail because he's essentially calling his dad and saying, I love you, goodbye for the last time.
Yeah.
It's there's this battle going around, and he's like, okay, well, everyone's prepping for battle, but I got one thing to do, and it's and you'd think, this must be some important thing to do with the battle to make sure we win. No, it's to call his family and kind of say goodbye.
Vicky has a very good point.
Yeah, it's so true. You've got Sheridan Senior reminds Sheridan about the core thing: never start a fight, but always finish it.
Yes.
And that's Sheridan at the start. The fight hasn't started yet, and Sheridan stands at the precipice because he knows once the fight starts, he has to finish it.
Yep.
Right.
And it's his father reminding him, not telling him what to do, but reminding him of what he always taught him, which is don't start trouble, but when trouble comes calling, make sure you finish it. Make sure you see it off. Make sure you, and it's that horrible feeling, that gut wrench. I mean, can you imagine? You're however many light years away from your family. Right. An event is about to happen. The likelihood of you ever contacting them again until things are sorted out is zero. Right. You got that one call to say goodbye, just in case things go wrong. You got that one call to try and express everything that's probably going through your head, knowing what's just around the corner.
Yeah. Well, and we saw a little bit of this during COVID. You know, how many stories did we get out there of families who were separated, and your grandpa is dying in the hospital, and everybody is separated by glass. You can't have any contact with them.
Yeah.
Whole families are ripped apart because of politics.
Yeah.
More than anything else. And now we have real world examples that we can point to and that resonate. So when we go back into these shows in the 90s and the aughts and see just how prescient some of them were inadvertently, like with DS9 with the Bell riots, that that whole thing is, we're looking at this taking place in real time with the sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
And this was, early, 91, 92 or whatever, when that episode came out on DS9. And now here you've got this kind of thing happening here, where at some point, military people and civilians both are going to have to stand up to a tyrannical government and say the line stops here, no farther.
Yeah. And it's again, I'm sure JMS doesn't share that belief with all of us from the perspective of today, but that's what makes good science fiction. Is I every time I'm watching something, I'm going, well, that just happened 5 years ago. That's what goes through my head, and I'm like, oh my god, and I'm seeing it through my perspective today, and that, again, and then I'm like, well, I remember seeing stuff like that in the 90s. We saw stuff like that in the 70s.
Well, and how many of us now have gardens and guns and bug out plans and
Right.
places to go and meet? If we get separated, you go here. We all have those things now, and we didn't have
which
6 years ago.
we didn't have, but our parents or grandparents did.
Probably,
because
yeah.
they had to. Yeah, I mean, our grandparents did that. They had victory gardens and stuff like that, and because they knew they couldn't necessarily rely on.
Oh yeah, my aunt still maintains the garden there. My aunt has a garden right now, it's the size, almost the size of a football field.
Yeah.
Because it's all of the ground between her house and where my grandparents' house used to be, and it's a good sized garden, and that's something that's been around my whole life. There's always been a garden in the family, and so now, and I've got one now, and it wasn't anything that I thought about until suddenly we're all under house arrest, and we're like, well, okay, if we're going to have any kind of a crisis of resources, we need to start prepping. And so the ground started getting broken up pretty early in the pandemic times, and
Well, and one of the things is, and I'm sorry, I don't know who played his father, but this was clearly a mano a mano type situation.
Rance Howard, I think, is very long career character actor.
And you
Rance
see
Howard.
Bruce plays this. He is in the moment. He is feeling the emotions. He's channeling the emotions of the character. And even JMS pointed this out in the thing. I saw it when I first watched it. And I'm like, man, he looks like he really is about to, start tearing up, or he kind of was almost, and I think he truly was. I don't think they had to add anything to help him out.
I think it was nice that you saw a positive father-son relationship, which is kind of rare today. So excellent scene. And we could wrap, we could make some final comments on that. We're kind of getting long here. So I want to get into the meat of the
battle.
The battles we're coming.
Where
okay,
we're going.
So and let me just do a quick kind of reset, wrap up, and then we'll get into the battle. Okay, so now he's had his conversation with his father. He comes. They get together. They have the hologram thing set up. They've Hiroshi and Ryan know what they're doing in the whole thing. Then he makes his announcement. His big speech where he announces the secession of Babylon 5,
right.
And the reasons why. And I'm sure the people on the station were expecting something, but now it's like, okay, this is happening. They're coming. You have to protect yourselves. Report to your quarters. The Narn are then all the security guys are scrambling around, trying to get ready for whatever's going to happen. And then there's I think Ivanova doesn't have a ton to do in this episode, but she has an excellent moment here, where she points out that these circumstances, one of them needs to be in the field leading this. It's like you're this whole thing where you're asking these people to do something that it's the opposite of their training, right?
So this is on the CNC.
Yeah.
And he does comment that this is a TV moment, because in the military this would never happen, but he did it because he felt we as an audience needed somebody to identify with out there with the guys flying.
Too bad they didn't have Keffer.
Yeah.
If they had Keffer, they could have sent him, right?
Yeah, take that, JMS.
But JMS got rid of him.
By the way,
I didn't feel that though. I didn't think that.
I didn't either. Yeah,
but I think in story it makes a ton of sense though.
By the way, Rance Howard, who plays Sheridan's dad, is Ron Howard's dad.
There you go.
Oh wow!
I was like, I know this guy. Why do I know this guy? Yeah, he's Ron Howard's dad. He's Bryce Dallas Howard's grandfather.
Kind of looks like Ron Howard does now.
He does. Yeah, he does. Yeah, very similar. But he's reassuring to him. The one point you glossed over a little bit that we might want to just touch on real briefly is using the hologram. That's the one technology that they did get to. I forget the guy's name, but if you notice, he appears holographic, and this is not the way that they're used to seeing it. Normally, they're used to seeing it on monitors and stuff like that. This gives almost, and he's kind of larger than life. It's not that he's a messianic, because I was thinking that word at first, and I'm like, no, he's not really a messianic figure. He is more of a heroic. He's like, look, there are things going on. I'm laying out the case to everybody on the station right here. This is what we're doing. This is what we're going. They're incoming. We don't have a choice. We have to. It's either fight or be destroyed. And so, but that using that hologram, it didn't really tip the hand. It's like, but it is kind of giving the people on board the station a little bit of reassurance that, hey, they might have a little more technology than we know about.
Although we don't see anybody react to the use of that technology that nobody's ever seen before. It's like, oh, hey, what is this 50-foot giant?
They're all staring though. They're all
staring.
They are, yeah.
But it's not any different than sitting and watching a television monitor. I mean, there's no surprise at the hologram.
Yeah.
It's the first time this technology is being used, and nobody reacts to that fact.
At least being used by humans.
It was a little strange that he chose to do it without any time really to go into any of that reaction. But
I think it's a smart move by him, because it helps to get the nuance and the body language that he's trying to put out there to help convince people. So I think it's I think that even that is a good reason to choose to do it.
You can
contrast what says here down below.
Yeah, and you can contrast it with his his prisoner statement that he read with the martial law declaration in the prior episode.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yep. So now all the pieces are in place now. They're just kind of they're waiting for it to happen, and boom. And I mentioned previously that I like Corwin is a character that I really like, and I think he's used effectively here, because at some point Ivana was like, "You all right?" And he's like, "Yeah."
I don't know what I got myself into, but yeah.
He's kind of that avatar of what the rest of the crew is feeling, right? They don't know any of this stuff. It's like this just dropped in their lap. I mean, they knew Night Watch and all this stuff was going on, but they had no insights that the command staff has. So I like that. But he stands his post, obviously, and he's the one that announces it. That the jump gate opens, and here they come roaring in.
Everybody else is staring at Sheridan and Ivanova.
Yeah.
And he's like, beep beep beep.
And I think.
Well, just remember that I think that Corwin's going to be one of the next senior officers. I mean, he's not a senior officer, but he's going to be one of the next higher ranking. Like everybody in the pit there is probably technicians and not officers. So he is, he's fairly high up on the,
Well, he got a
relatively.
promotion a few episodes ago, right? Didn't they?
Right.
Yeah, and that's
did,
why they were looking at him as a potential candidate.
Right. He's only one rank lower than Ivanova was originally. So he's lieutenant commander.
So he's a lieutenant, right?
Yes, full lieutenant.
Yeah.
Okay, so it comes in, and I particularly like this. The captain of the Agrippa appears to be the leader of the task force here, and he he comes in and he makes his announcement. It's basically like you're to surrender, the whole thing, and it's just over the radio. You don't see him,
right?
And it's very cold and just mechanical, and I don't know, something about that really was done well. Right. And Sheridan, of course, he responds, and and again, a nice contrast. He has, some passion to him, and, then there's kind of silence, and he's like, come on, it's like, he kind of gives, like an impassioned, and then he's like, he's trying to make one last appeal. It's like, this is wrong. Don't do this,
come on, you must see these orders are illegal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Use your head, and then they just cut them off. Yeah.
And then he gives the order that, be ready to respond, but make them be the ones that start, again, going back to
don't shoot on them until they shoot first. Yeah.
Right. And then it's on. And then it unloads. I don't even know where to go about this. And we have the two elements. We have the space battle, which is, we see some stuff out. I'll just kind of outline it, and anyone could talk about the details they like. You see the space battle going on between the different ships. You're seeing the perspective of the good guy ships, but all going on there. And then you see the fighters, and then you see the command, the CNC. And then we also see the breaching operation, which is my absolute favorite of the whole episode. But who wants to tackle this?
Let me point this out first, okay? So in this episode, on average, they typically have about 40 shots that they render, that they were rendering. This episode has 147 shots. 100 of them are in these scenes that we're seeing now.
Yeah,
in this part,
it's packed, right?
It is packed. And he said that was they like. And if you notice, the thrusters on the Furies are like the best I've seen. You know what I mean? Everything is like this is the bee's knees. This is like they put everything into this one.
Well, and I think it's interesting. It would be interesting to go back through season 3 and see how many episodes are bottle episodes, because that's where the budget for this scene came from.
Yeah. Well worth it. Okay.
It looks great on Blu-ray. I gotta say, I'm surprised. I was surprised.
It holds up.
It looks great on DVD. I was like, because I've seen, I've seen season 1 and season 2, and up till this point, and I'm like, my jaw was like,
timeless.
Oh my God, they got some major upgrades, and they put a lot of their time and effort into this thing, and and this was, that they were doing things on a shoestring. He talked about with the explosions that you see, how they actually had to film some of them multiple times because the explosions are real. They're not CGI. They actually had to create their own explosions because they couldn't afford to hire some other third-party company to do it for them. They couldn't get ILM to do it, right? So they actually used sheet of plexiglass and did an explosion. They had the camera underneath the plexiglass, and occasionally they had one situation at least where it set the plexiglass on fire and then set the camera on fire and burned up the film, and they had to reshoot it.
Well, let me suggest, instead of trying to go through, because there's just so much going on, why don't we go around the horn and let everybody talk about whatever their favorite part of the battle was, and anything they want to highlight. Let's start with you, Dean.
Okay. I thought the choreograph of the battle was absolutely spot on. Showing off the point defense systems working really well. The beam weapons just cutting straight through, but having, I think beam weapons typically have a lower range, so they're having to get a bit closer. I love the bit where at the start, Ryan, he says, get close to them. How close? Right down their throats. It's that great. Getting in really close so they can use their broadsides, they can use their beam weapons. The one bit, Ivanova, she needs more focus. She needs to go back and they need to give her something more training because she got distracted, and that distraction was enough to get her Star Fury knocked out of action. Yeah. But I thought the whole of the battle, it brings you in. You at no point are you taken out of what is happening, and the swapping between, you got that breaching pod coming in, and then the whole battle you got on the station mirrored with the battle you got in space. The one thing I really liked, and I know Madman pointed out that some of the slight inconsistencies you've got, but damage. I never liked Star Trek battles because shields will be absorbing stuff, but things will be blowing up on the bridge. And you're like, really? But there, CNC, an enemy Star Fury smashes into the outside of the area that CNC occupies, and you get the damage being reflected on the inside.
And I thought, and then you had a crewman that had to grab a fire extinguisher and put it out.
Absolutely, it's those touches.
Great attention to detail.
Yeah, really like it. But yes, the one thing, and Madman's kind of covered it, which is, he says the Roanoke. Sheridan refers to the Roanoke at the end, and of course the Roanoke got destroyed by the Churchill earlier on, and it was indeed the Agrippa that was on fire and about to explode. Right. It's, for me, I think this is the best space fight scene I have seen. In both the build-up, how I felt going into it, because it's just that constant build, and then how it unfolds. And then at the end, you're like, oh, they've done it. And then you hear more ships coming in. Right. And it's that roller coaster is just, every time I watch this episode, I go back to that place, and I'm back there watching it for the first time. Absolutely. Fantastic.
Jason, what do you think? What's your takeaways from this the battle?
Well, nothing really stood out one particular thing over anything else. I think it was executed really well. It was, as a visual effects extravaganza, it wasn't overcooked. There wasn't anything unnecessary to it. And it goes to show you too that back in ye olden days, there was a plan probably for stuff like this, as opposed to just do it 6 dozen different ways and pick the one you like best. Now,
there wasn't the budget for that either.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is you've got to, you with all of these different, you talk about all of these different shots, all of those different shots have to line up too, because the screen movement, objects moving from left to right, one way to one direction or the other, you got to have all of the angles match up. This is a lot of work, especially in the early days of CG and 3D modeling, where the Agrippa's coming in this way, and the Agamemnon's over here, and Babylon 5's over here, and you got to make sure that you get everything in place, and your angles are right in all of your camera angles, all of your different shots, because none of it's real. You don't have models that you set the model here and you set the model here and you point the camera. It's all this ethereal, nothing stuff in the computers, ones and zeros. So the more complex the visual effects, the more impressive it is, because there's a lot of moving parts. And it's always fun, especially in that time period, to see these kind of things come together like they did. It's like this, and the big battle at the end of DS9, and a lot of those, that's all model work. But This stuff here is really impressive in how well it holds together visually.
Okay, Jeff.
Well, I mean, to me, it was seamless. Both, the two times that I watched it, sitting there, it's just like you're drawn in, and it's just there's so many things going on. There's so many moving pieces, but yet it's all very fluid. It's not disjointed. I mean, yeah, you could point out, oh, there's this one, like Madman said, there was a stick pointing out, stuck in, but I didn't notice that. You know what I mean? To me, it was like I was too into the action to notice, little tiny details that maybe didn't make sense. It was very fluid and it all made sense. The physics was on point. We know that we've talked about this before. JMS consulted people that were, physics experts, that could try to explain how things would happen in there. It was deliberately pointed out that yes, somebody should be able to have an emergency. I mean, our regular aircraft have the ability to, pop out and go parachute out, from a plane that's, been hit or whatever. So that's why Ivanova had that, because that is something that, yeah, we would want to do that if you're in a position like that. I mean, just leading up to the, I guess you could call them the capital ships thing. I don't think we've quite gotten to that, but even that was all done particularly well. The CGI, this is the best CGI I've seen in the series to this point. And I can't fathom how many hours it took to render. I do know, especially in the 90s, right? 96.
Yeah, a lot.
So yeah, they finished this with 1 hour before the uplink.
Wow.
For the show to air. 1 hour. They got it, and got it to the satellite so they could upload it.
Okay, Stop.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Everybody brings up good points. I'm gonna talk about the weakest area, which I think is putting Ivanova out there. I mean, and then she goes out there and she's like, okay, you guys make a hole and then the other squadron follow me and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know if, she was involved with the squadrons beforehand, but, there would have been hours where the squadron leaders would have been going over this and figuring out, all right, if these guys cut, we know these two ships are attacking, we're going to do this. And they should have had their plan already. Now, I don't know if she knew that plan already, but she might be going against the plan. They might have all this already figured out. So I think it's a little bit weak that she's, going in there and then start, I understand why they're doing it story wise, but if they had thrown in the line there and said, like she said, I've, the squadron commanders have their plan and, it's good to go and stuff, then I would have felt a little bit better about it. But I think that's the weakest part of this whole battle scene.
Yeah. Well, there has been dialogue in the past, in other episodes where Sheridan and Ivanova both talk about going out and just making sure that they keep their flight time and stuff. So it could be an extension of that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this was definitely done for
she wanted
the audience. Well, no, it was done for the audience perspective. It was done to give us, because we can't relate to all these unknown pilots, but we can relate to Ivanova, right? Because we've seen her through, in her progression. So it was done. It was done for our benefit. I mean, JMS came right out and said he did that.
What though?
I wanted to ask about. I wanted to ask: am I allowed to talk about the battle on the station as well, or we just?
I was going to talk about it, but if you'd like, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I would talk about that.
Let me just comment on.
I'm going to get to it.
Let me just comment on the thing about Ivanova real quick. Again, I love this episode and everything, but I've called out JMS on the whole thing about Kefir before, and it's like, maybe you should have thought about that. Maybe you shouldn't have got your undies in a bunch about it and worked with it. and now you
Now you needed him. Now you needed Tepper.
Maybe it wasn't that bad of an idea, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, his show, he could do what he wants. Okay. Snob,
And now JMS will not come on this show for an interview.
Hey, if he can't take a little criticism, that's not my fault, right? No, I obviously I love his work on this. I mean, you know, but okay, the part that I loved was the breaching pod, the whole thing. I loved the way that they set it up. You know, they identified where it's coming for, and you know, the security rush in there. Garibaldi, I forget what he said. He's like, you know, it's like this is going to be bad, you know, kind of thing. But the Narns just, you know, absolutely standing tall in this. You know, there was no hesitation in them at all, and they're, you know, the breaching scene was cool, and they just, I mean, it's not good, obviously, but it was like a scene from World War I or something where, you know, they're going over the top, and they just ran into fire, you know, brutal, absolutely brutal. And the music with the scene and them just, you know, getting cut down, most memorable of the entire episode for me. And there's more to come. So go ahead. It's not
I mean, I'm a ground guy, so I don't know about flying around in planes, but I mean, you know, Garibaldi is going to be a little weak with his, you know, on the ground tactics when compared to the Marines, because he's just a security guy. He's basically a police officer. Now, however, he comes in and he's like, this is a smart thing to do. Okay, here's a defensible position. We're going to set up here. They're going to come on and they're going to start coming in. Well, you know, like he's got a bit of a plan, you know, right? But then the Narns are like, no, we're going to just rush right in. And he's like, okay, well, I guess we're going forward. And
I think his words were, nuts.
Yeah. Sounds like
nuts. And he goes, I guess we're going to keep going. And he said something afterwards. So, I mean, that's I think that's a great reaction and what's going on. And he does have two choices, right? Like you've got two choices. So assuming, let's say the force is about half and half, he can say, okay, well, we're going to stay here and let the Narns go, or we're going to go with them. And you're kind of like, well, if, you know, it could be bad for morale if you just let them run off and get killed and not support them. So maybe it's better to stay all together and go. And he makes that decision. So I think that was a great, you know, he could have gone either way, but you know, it's a very reasonable decision they make. I think the Narns are they're a little bit crazy. They're just running right in.
I think they got religious fervor. I think
I don't know. Something's going on.
Yeah,
so I was a little.
Well,
bit, you know,
it's finally a chance for them to do something.
Yeah,
you know, they've been sitting there they're sitting there on the station, not able to fight for their own homeworld, not able to do anything, to get involved in any kind of restoration of their people and their government and throw off the story. These people have been chomping at the bit to fight somebody because of what's been going on. And
you can
so,
still
you know,
be smart about it.
You don't, this opportunity
you don't have to
do
be.
this thing.
Well, I agree. It wasn't smart tactics, but I still loved it because, again, it was good. It was just the impact of it was fantastic.
Well, I was going to say,
I'll always be a little critical now. The Marines, they didn't, are they the same kid as we saw them before? Because they look like they just had a bunch of old American military equipment from like the 70s, not the way that they were set. Because I saw the stuff there and I'm like, hey, I recognize
they had no money for costumes, man.
They must have.
They spent all the money on the CGI.
I was hoping to see the Marines from before when we saw them, but they didn't look. They looked like, you know, 60s era Vietnam. They had flak jackets.
You've got a big difference.
Canteens, everything.
Yeah, you got a big difference here, which is the Marines we saw before were ground troopers, whereas these are Marines designed to operate in zero-G and stuff like that. So I guess the equipment would be quite different.
But the equipment should be better for these Marines, to be honest.
Yeah, but the military's gone through this big upheaval. So part of the military split off. There's a lot of confusion. maybe these are the B Marines. The specialists were all on board the ships that defected and
It could
left
be.
Earth.
This was supposed
Usually,
to be like
though-
the elite breaching group, though.
Yes.
Yeah. Usually the guys who are like Marines who are going on to enemy ships and breaching, they have to be better trained. It's much more dangerous. They usually get, the more dangerous thing you do, the better kit you get,
The
and
the better
more
toys you
training
get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
usually that's what happens. But
won't
I think it's a complete, it's a budget issue. But I'm okay.
I
I
think
won't.
so.
I won't disagree with anything you said, but none of it bothered me. The
Yeah.
scene still worked.
Yeah, it gave me a little bit. I see them. I'm like, wait a second. But other than that, it's a good scene. The chaosness of the whole situation, everybody running around and just diving and shooting at each other. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me again kind of reset, and then we'll get to the big finish here. So,
I wanted to touch
I'm
on
sorry,
the
Jeff, did
music
you have-
real quick?
Okay, go
because
ahead.
you did mention it, and that was a design choice. Because they originally did try to put explosions and the sounds of all the gunfire and stuff like that in there, and it took away from the feeling. They wanted you to have the emotion of what was going on between between the breaching army, or whatever you want to call them, breaching Marines, and the Babylon
boarding
5,
party.
and the boarding party, and the crew and the Narns, and they had tried putting in explosions and stuff like that, and it just it took away from it. It was much better with just minimizing the sound on the, because if you notice the everything, any kind of blaster stuff, fire and stuff like that, was almost like it was dampened down, and the music was carrying you through. So the emotion, they wanted you to feel the emotion of this, and I felt it. I mean, it was very, very, my biggest complaint was when they blasted the hole and it was this big square. I thought that was a little weird. I'm like,
Yeah, but
it should have been a little
didn't.
more.
I actually didn't.
Yeah.
A little more round, but
the
I actually
breaching
didn't.
pod would have attached to the back, so it would have been on a centrifugal force. So they would have had to come up into like a bulkhead and then blasted out of that bulkhead.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're not seeing the pod itself. Otherwise, it would have been on the floor. They would have been blasting up through the floor.
Yeah.
I think they're cutting the. I didn't have a trouble with the size of it, because I'm assuming that they've got something around, some sort of laser or something around there, or a torch, and they're cutting through, like the breaching pod attaches itself and it's cutting through the hull, and then there's an explosive force to push the
Debris inwards,
piece of metal in the instead of back on them. So I mean, I didn't have a trouble with, if it's it could have been circle, it could have been a square, or whatever they wanted.
Like I said,
Depends
it was just a little too uniform in a shape. But who knows? That's it. Like I said, nothing in this episode really bothered me.
Well,
I
got to tell you, I appreciate you saying that, Jeff. But the last time I attacked a space station, it was exactly
last year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the battle happens. The ships. There's a ramming of the ship. The Agrippa and the Roanoke are destroyed or disabled. They tried to get them to abandon ship. I think it was the Agrippa. But they didn't get out. They lost it. The two other smaller frigates, I'm not sure exactly what happened to them, but all that said, they've stopped the offensive. And then they're getting reports. It's like, there's structural damage to the space station. Corwin says, good thing we couldn't take much more. And then there goes another jump
Gate
point
activation,
opening,
jump point activation.
and here they come in. And I think I'm remembering this correctly. Same kind of, you're ordered to stand, surrender, same kind of mechanical, commands. And then Corwin announces 3 more jump points opening.
Four more.
Four more. And then, to everyone's surprise, Delenn comes in with the White Star and the other Minbari ships.
Yep.
Who wants to talk about the even bigger moment?
the very famous line,
Yes,
apparently the most popular line of the entire series.
Delenn's
Really? Yeah, only one human captain has ever survived a battle with the Minbari fleet. That line?
Yep. Yes. Go ahead, Dean.
He is behind me. You are before me. If you value your lives, be somewhere else.
And
I thought that was great for Delenn. She delivered it well. It's that, there's only one person who we fear, and he's behind us. He's with us.
Yeah,
you're not.
Everybody loves that line for good reason. Well, maybe I think everybody does. We'll hear. But I like that she came in initially and said Babylon 5 is under Minbari protection. And then the guy responds, and it's like, oh, blah blah, don't get don't get in our way. And she's like, why not? I like that line too, because we just like, who do you think you're talking to? It's like, no.
Yeah.
And then she gives the line, the explanation of that line. But I like the why not part of it too, because it was just like, nope.
Yeah.
Which that shows her humanity that she's picked up over the. Oh really?
Yeah,
why not? Come on, mofo, bring it on.
So
she's almost cocky at this point.
Well, I'm sure people might want to. Jason, what do you think about that scene with Delenn? Did you like it? Did you think it was? I mean, it's 30 years old now, right? It's a famous thing. Does it hold up?
I think it does. Yeah, I think it does. I don't know that she's cocky so much as she's
confident.
We've taken the last step in the commitment of forces, because she's confronted the Grey Council at this point. It's now we're way past the point of no return, and she's fully committed. We're all in. This is now, everything that we have been preparing for. And now suddenly we're here, and we're not fighting shadows yet, but the fact that the war has been engaged, we've actually started shooting. She's fully committed to the cause, and you see that demonstrated here, and the solidarity that she shows with Sheridan also speaks to the group that they've put together. This resistance package that sits there. But yeah, it's a great line. That solid writing, because it does more than one thing functionally. There's an emotion there in the, I'm drawing a line in the sand. I dare you to cross it. But there's also, this guy who was our enemy is now my ally, and you're on notice. So this single speech that she gives does more than one thing, and that's very smart writing that you don't see a whole lot of times in modern entertainment.
True.
Because the Netflix effect, where I have to be told what's happening even though I'm watching what's happening, because a lot of people are in the kitchen fixing their sandwich and they have to have it narrated for them because they're not actually watching the show. That kind of thing has seeped into a lot of what we've got. You don't have that here. And it's very succinct. It's specific word choices. It's very deliberate writing, and I think it works on a number of levels.
Right, Jason. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Oh yeah, no. Here comes the cavalry. I mean that was going to, and we of course knew she was on her way. And we had just literally, as Dean had put it very eloquently, this was a roller coaster ride. We had just come over that peak and come down, and then suddenly now we hit the bottom, and we're like, "Oh crap, we're through it." And then nope.
Good description.
Yeah.
And the line was delivered. She delivered all of her lines in this whole episode well.
Yeah.
But it's just even her speech. When she broke the staff, apparently the whole speech part of it was filmed in one take. But they did have to go back in there and cut the staff for her to break it because she tried like 3 or 4 times and it wouldn't break. So, but I mean, that was her resolve at that point. I think was fortified with the breaking of the staff and the others following with her. Now she's got these people behind her. She's convinced them that this is the right, this is their destiny. They have to draw the line here at Babylon 5 because what they're about to undertake is going to be even bigger, and they need to be unified and prepared to take that on. And I think that's something that is foreshadowed with this. We've got to put this is our stand. We are not going to allow Earthdom under the influence of the shadows, no doubt. Morden and his ilk, are clearly controlling or have something to do with Clark, and it was great. It was great to see the White Star. And they didn't just to see them turn tail and go, yeah, we're not up for this fight. It was kind of interesting. I'm surprised it gave them pause, but then again, it's been what 13 years now since the Battle of the Line.
Yeah, roughly.
So it's still fairly fresh in their minds about how close Earth came. And they said the station is under our protection. They didn't say this is our station now. This station is under our protection. So,
all right, stop.
Yeah, I mean, great line, and as everyone said, well delivered. I even liked the line before the directness of before, where she's like, "Withdraw or be destroyed." It's very direct and to the point. Excellent line. Great point by her.
Dean, you kind of gave the line. Was there anything else you wanted to say about it?
Not really. I think it was a great way to wrap up the episode. I know we got a little bit more before the end, but as I said, that roller coaster ride. You're at the end. You're suddenly, oh my god, how are they going to get out of this? And then Delenn comes riding in with Minbari ships. Yeah, Earth is going to withdraw. They don't want to start a whole new fight with the Minbari. But it does make you wonder what's so important about Babylon 5 for all of this to be sort of centered around, for Clark to want to grab Babylon 5, for the Minbari to protect Babylon 5, other than the icon it's become. Is there actually something a bit more behind Babylon 5 than just the fact it is this supposed neutral territory, which is now no longer really neutral?
Foreshadowing?
Maybe.
Yeah. We can see why it's important to the resistance.
Yeah.
But it does seem a little bit, Clark seems to be, he just wants to take, he doesn't want anything to leave. Like, who cares about some outer colonies that are probably so tiny that doesn't really matter? But he's just sort of, I think we're getting a sense of him that he's this, everything is mine, I've got to keep it. Type of thing. I don't know. I haven't seen beyond this, but
well,
it does seem a little bit
any kind of open rebellion is a pathway to him losing his power and control and defeat. And you see this with oppressive regimes everywhere. Any kind of pushback. You see what's going on in the UK right now. You can't even post on social media your critique of certain things that are going on over there. That's how it starts. And you have to, especially with, the dictatorship type things, governments where any kind of resistance, any form of resistance must be squashed, because as soon as there's one successful crack in the armor, there will be others.
Yeah.
That's a good. It's a good point, but it was also. I mean, it was tactically stupid. They did mention that in kind of the run up to this that his power base is on Earth, and he doesn't really have the reach. And again, he's got now 4 separate colonies trying to simultaneously subjugate here. It's
Yeah.
just,
Well,
it's not a good
But
idea.
you wonder if the
even
shadows
just
aren't.
look at this. Even look at this battle here. If he had wait, I mean, you've got the 2 ships show up, right? The Roanoke and the Agrippa show up, and there's a battle. And how long does that battle last? I don't know. Let's say 15 minutes, an hour, and then a bunch of other ships arrive. I mean, why didn't those 2 groups come together? They probably would have won. Something's going on here that they're not coordinating themselves. They're a little
But
bit scattered.
if they had waited, you would have had a bigger force arriving and then Delenn arriving. And I think you would have ended up in the same situation. I think the first set of ships, it was right, get in there, sort out the problem, and then reinforcements are going to come in too.
Didn't
Well,
they mention?
perhaps,
Didn't they
but
mention
they
that
don't know
were,
that Delenn's coming. So
Okay, but didn't they
Yeah,
mention
yeah.
they were trying to collect more, and maybe they were rushed? It's like get there. Don't. I mean, their
Yeah,
plan might have
that's-
been, yeah, we want to get these other guys, because Hiroshi, I think, mentioned that they were trying to gather other forces, and maybe they were like, we can't wait, go now.
Yeah. Well, these ships were already on their way, so they were given orders. I don't know whether you can. I don't know how communications work within hyperspace. I think you got to be on a tight beam to be able to receive the comms. So likelihood is this fleet's been given their orders. They're out of contact now. They're going to carry out those orders. So they arrive to take Babylon 5, not realizing kind of that there's 2 other destroyers here.
But that's a planning problem at the higher levels, though, right?
Yeah, and
you know where your ships are. You could say, go here and wait an hour, and then these guys will meet up
Well,
with you, and we can
Yeah,
arrive with
yeah.
better
Yeah,
force.
but you've
dictators
given
don't-
orders, and they're in hyperspace now. So
Dictators
yeah,
aren't known for being the best tacticians, right?
And that's the
Yeah.
point, I think, is that it's showing a little bit of the scattered nature of Earth government and how they're all over the place and not
Yeah.
doing things in a reasonable, a much more smarter manner.
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
panic reaction, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, and where were these other ships? Maybe they were headed originally towards Proxima 3 and Orion 7.
Or
you
there
know,
could have
and I
also
don't
been
know
other
where they are,
defections too.
Yeah,
It could have been that, oh yeah, we got 4 ships, and it's like, well, now you got 2.
and the news is, we know the news is being suppressed because we learned that when
Right.
when ISN was taken offline, and so.
Right. Okay, so now we're basically to the conclusion of it. The battle is over now, and
For now.
Ryan's
Yeah.
meeting with Sheridan. They discuss what they're going to do. Ryan says that he's going to take off and try and find other rebels basically, and gather them together. And then this is the scene where Sheridan says he's not going to wear his uniform anymore.
Yeah.
That was kind of an interesting. He's. I don't know if I don't want to say ashamed, but maybe disgusted.
It's maybe a little bit of both. It's like
Could
he probably isn't too happy about having, just like Ryan wasn't. It's like he didn't want to have to fight these guys. These are supposed to be his ally. These are people he probably knew too.
Well, and we saw in a previous episode where it's like, no, we don't want to fire on our own ship, Captain. We've got to,
Yeah.
we don't have a choice.
That was the
there's that reluctance.
Agamemnon. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I felt Sheridan, it wasn't disgust, or I think it was disappointment, because
There
he
you go,
always
that's
talked
good.
about being part of something bigger,
Right.
and that thing is no longer what he thought it was, and it's looking at that uniform, and it's that disappointment, that sense of loss. You're no longer part of that big thing, and that dream is gone. And I think it's a great way to kind of wrap up that episode, which is, I can't wear that uniform anymore. It doesn't represent what I once was.
Yeah. The question is what happens next? Because and of course that's, I'm sure, will be answered in the because he says he'll put it on again when he
when this is all sorted. Yeah.
when this is all sorted.
You know
But he also needs to have that command.
Mm.
So there's got to be something, there's
Well,
got to be some sort of thing going on,
we'll
and I'm sure
see.
two of you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a Sheridan sitting on my
Yeah.
shelf that has
Everybody's probably seen.
weird looking uniform.
You know what? Vicky brings up a good point that when they were originally given the orders, they didn't necessarily expect a fight. That's before
Yeah.
the Alexander showed up there, and it was their original goal was to replace them.
Yeah.
And maybe they thought, hey, we've got 4 ships here. Babylon 5 can't stand up against that,
Right.
and it wouldn't have most likely
No,
because
it
again
wouldn't.
it had two other ships. Okay, and then we've got the scene with where he meets up with Garibaldi, who's wounded but okay, and Ivanova and Delenn, and there's a little googly eyes between Delenn and Sheridan there.
Oh yeah.
Which is,
he kisses her hand very smooth.
yeah, right. He's ramping that up, kind of stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Bond.
Yeah. But
Well,
then
that was apparently a very awkward take. Bruce did not. He thought it felt kind of weird,
It came
You
across
gotta
a
shoot
little
but
your
bit.
it
shot,
came
man.
off on camera well. So
I thought it was a little weird. I mean,
Well,
kissing her
so did
hand.
he.
I mean,
Yeah.
she's not royalty. They're kind of a little more intimate than that. Like,
Hmm.
they've been in some situations. I figured a hug would be more appropriate.
He's a gentleman.
Yeah.
You don't question
Yeah.
him. Okay, so then they go to the Zocalo, and then they got the slow clap.
Yeah,
Into,
very 90s.
Turning into full applause. The people here approve of his leadership, but they do mention about sabotage. They expect there to be
Yes.
sabotage.
And they are
Yeah.
sending people back home, which
Right.
I wonder the ones that want to leave, the people that run the night watch. Look, they're not keeping prisoners and stuff like that. The question is, how are they going to get them there? What ships are they using to send them there? Obviously, they're not going to,
Yeah, they can't give up their resources.
They're
at this
they're
point.
hand wavium ships.
Right. Well, they do. They also do mention. Ryan talks about that they took on Hiroshi's squadrons, and
yes,
then
they
but
did.
They were filled
Yeah.
up, and then the rest ended up on Babylon 5. So
Which includes the new Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts. Yeah.
there you go.
So they've got Thunderbolts now because they lost what? They only had-
30%.
They were
30% was destroyed or yeah.
Was it? I thought they had 60% of their. They were down to 60% of their ships.
They lost 30, so they were down to
30%.
70%.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody want to make any comments about that, Jason, about this last scene?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have anything to add to it.
Okay.
I liked it. It's good. It's setting up the next scene. Hey, we're gonna have a sabotage problem, and I'm like, oh great. Hey, we're gonna see some.
Yeah. We're gonna see some
sneaky
sabotage
bombs
now.
exploding, a little bit of more spy stuff next episode, maybe.
Probably. Yeah.
Assassinations. Who knows? Something like that. Stuff blowing up. I'm like, it's gonna be it's gonna be a quiet part, relatively, of the battle scene, but. More on the down low. Garibaldi's going to get more involved. Maybe there'll be some stuff like that. That's good. I like the change. I'm looking forward to
Deeper story, deeper into the story, and less on the action, maybe, or it'll be more story driven than action driven. Like this episode was very action driven, I think. I mean, it had a good story to it, but it was, you know what I mean. It was very heavy on the action. I think we might see more of the subterfuge and stuff like that, and the deeper thinking stuff than the big flashy stuff.
Dean, anything on this?
No, nothing to add. No.
Okay. I also have nothing else to add. Snob, do you want to should I guess wrap up? Final words?
Yeah. Any last thoughts before we wrap up about the
anything we missed?
Yeah, anything we missed before we go to you want to rate the episode or whatever. Anything we missed that you're burning to talk about. We're a little bit over time, but hey, that's okay. It was a great episode. But yeah. Nothing burning. You don't have to have anything. It's
Let's
fine.
see. I'm checking my 3 pages here to see if there's anything we missed.
All right. Just wait for that.
There was a lot of extraneous stuff like about PPGs and why they use PPGs instead of stuff like that. I don't know. I think we covered just about everything though.
All right, good. Let's start with Dean. Final thoughts on the episode. You want to give it a ranking?
Absolutely. This episode is my favorite of the entire series. The roller coaster ride. I've used that phrase because I think it fits it so well. The emotions, you're feeling things are getting really serious now, and the whole show seems to be just taking off and going in a completely different direction. I thought the fight scene was very well choreographed. It had a flow. It took you on a journey. The panning across the dead bodies and the people who were wounded at the end of the breaching scene, I think, and the music, I think all of that was perfectly toned. There were mistakes here and there, but they were so minor in comparison to the emotions I felt throughout this episode. And it might be the only episode I ever do this to, but it is, for me, it is definitely a 10 out of 10.
Okay, Jason.
8 out of 10, I guess. Overall, it's a well put together episode. It is the point of no return episode. I think we've definitely turned a corner here in terms of the story. And I think I was reading somewhere that this is kind of the halfway point in the 5 seasons, and it's deliberately put. This episode is deliberately put right here in the timeline. So I guess that means it's all downhill from here, or something.
All right,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Well, it was a great episode. I love the visual effects for the 1996. I think the CGI was amazing for that era. God, I wish I would have seen it back then. I probably would have just been like in awe. The combination of the music, and I wish I could remember the person, the director of the music, the conductor or whatever you call it, that wrote it. But the way it was implemented, yeah, in the scene of the breaching scene, where it literally, it kind of made me think back to the episode where the troops were going off to put down some sort of rebellion or whatever on a colony, and then we saw at the end all of them lie, except this time we saw dozens of people, not just the ones that we had seen before. We saw Narn and humans alike, injured, wounded, and deceased, and Garibaldi limping around, clearly injured. He clearly got injured, and from what I understand, he actually really did at some point. So, but after that scene, apparently. Overall, I'm gonna say this episode, just because I have not seen the rest of the series, I've got to go like 9.75, because it could be better at some point. I just don't know. You know what I mean? I can't give it a perfect hit now. Maybe once we're done, I will revise that and give it a 10 out of 10. But since I haven't seen the rest of the season or the next 2 seasons, I can't say, that it's, but this was clearly the best episode of the first 3 seasons. Without a doubt. Everything was great. I can hand wave them, or overlook some of the more technical details without any problem. In fact, I probably didn't even notice them the first watch. The second watch, yeah, maybe I'm like, that little breach looks a little weird to me. Oh yeah, this little thing or that little thing is a little odd, but I certainly didn't. It certainly didn't bother me. It didn't take me out of the moment. The music, the graphics, they have the special effects, the explosions, and then learning some of the trials and tribulations that they went through trying to get some of those shots in there, and blending the CGI with real pyrotechnics. Um, I mean, Dolin's speech was, to the Great Council was delivered with impassion. My understanding is she was from Yugoslavia, and uh, she was in that moment because it reminded her of what she had gone through back in Yugoslavia, what she had seen and stuff like that. And it's, you have to do something, so she was very impassioned. I think the expression was truth is in her eyes, and her real experiences definitely contributed to that. Bruce,
She talks about that in a panel that I moderated at Planet Comic Con a number of years ago before she passed away.
did she?
The video is still on our channel, but yeah, she talks about what life was like before she came over here. It's a really good hour. Anybody wants to watch it, it's out there.
We'll have to drop a link for that at some point here. I think it's interesting at the end that they're splitting the party. The ships are going different ways. I guess maybe that makes sense. I don't know. Trying to distract, but you know, I'm worried about the people that they're shipping back. Obviously, a lot of them had dirty looks, but like I said, I would say it's perfect, but I don't know if there's a better episode. So how can I do that? How can I give it a perfect score if I haven't seen everything yet?
Okay, Cam.
This is a 10 for me. I think it is my favorite episode, although there are other ones that are well, other ones would be tied at best. Let me put it that way. It's a little strange because I think this episode could have been titled "The Point of No Return" itself and would have worked just as well.
Yeah.
It might have. I mean, this episode and the prior episode could have been "Point of No Return" 1 and 2. They were very tightly linked. Again, so I was saying this peak. I don't say it's peak to imply that it's downhill from here, but rather this is, I guess it would be more accurate to say the show kind of pivots at this point. It's everything that came before is now and again, even the opening of this season is, it was our last best hope for peace, and now it's our last best hope for victory. You're right, exactly. And this is kind of, the last two episodes are kind of the representing that it represents the whole season very well, and I don't know. It does have its flaws. There are little nitpicks you could do here and there, but thematically and the way it's presented, and again, the feel you take away from it, or at least I take away from it, is unmatched. It really is great, and one of my favorite episodes of television of all time.
Okay, yeah. For me, the mistakes any little technical mistakes don't bother me. They don't take away from the episode. It's a great episode. I'm gonna give it a 9 just because I guess I am allergic to giving perfects for anything, and I don't know what else is coming next. This episode is rated 9.6 on IMDb, which is pretty damn high, and it's the highest of any episode of Babylon 5. But great overall episode. I mean, loved it. What else is to say? It's great.
I mean, this episode did win a Hugo Award. It was the second one, I believe, that they received for the series, and specifically for that scene, the fight scene with the Star Furies going over the ships and stuff like that, where they were, once the battle had concluded, and yeah. I mean, there was a couple of, like I said, a couple of those scenes where they tried to draw us in. Just they were TV moments that probably wouldn't happen in a real situation. But hey, it's a TV show. What do you expect?
Yeah, it was great. Okay, let's do let's end off the show. We'll put out the trivia, and then we'll get out of here. All right. Okay, last week's trivia. This week's trivia questions. Severed Dreams. I think we might have answered most of these. Delynn uses her position as the chosen of blank to get her into the Grey Council to talk to them. We actually mentioned his name, the person. Never start a fight. Quote. What's the rest of that quote? How many members of the Great Council followed Delynn out of the chamber? What is the name of the new class of Star Fury? And what was Garibaldi doing during the battle? And of course, I'm the only one who knows these trivia questions beforehand. The other guys don't know them. So, yeah, there was no
Snob doesn't want to hint to
they
us.
just mentioned them. Yeah. Well, you keep it secret. All right. Let's go around. What's going on your show, Jason, coming up?
Jason?
You're muted, so.
Okay. Sorry about that. We're still in the medically modified schedule, so it's kind of hit and miss what we're doing with things. I'm waiting to hear back on some guests we're trying to line up, but there's no formal plan for programs other than we'll probably do another takedown of Starfleet Academy this weekend. Other than that, it's just as we post over on socials and Discord when we've got a show. I imagine we'll probably talk about the Warner Brothers stuff still. Paramount had their earnings call, and we may follow up and do some analysis on that. But right now we're just kind of catch can, as it were. And of course, we've got this show on Wednesday night, and then Bad News Bards on Sunday night.
All right. So so watch the socials and get those notifications on there. Click on the bell, and you can find out what's up. Dean.
Right. Well, we got our next Tuesday show talking about Untold Destiny, where we cover spells and the gods. So tune in. We're going to try and keep it to an hour to give it a good deep dive. Pop into chat, ask all your questions. This Thursday, we don't have an indie spotlight. However, on the weekend, we are interviewing Tiny D10, and they'll be out the following week. So we're looking forward to that and having a good look at their system.
All right. Awesome. Jeff.
Well, this Sunday, we have Double D from Diversity and Dragons coming on with us. Cam and I are going to walk on the wild side. Double D, he's a great guy, if you haven't seen him. So we're going to have him on for the 90 minutes or so and talk to him about all things interesting and whatnot. Following that on Monday, I'm going to be running session 3 of a Shadow Dart game based on Tom Wilson's module, The Crumbling Heap of Kashmir. So I'm trying to get all that rust off my my armor of GMing and trying to get things going again. And it's coming together slowly, but at any rate. So, and of course, we'll be back here on Wednesday. So,
all right, excellent. And of course, other affiliates of the show. Don't forget to check out Outpost Nerd at Night for his show. Let me take these captions off there so people can read it. Check out his show. And of course, Madman with the show is got his show on Tuesday where he talks about Starfleet Academy and these other shows. Madman Daily Videos he's got coming out. He's got a couple that came out this week, 2 or 3, I believe. And of course, he's working on a new show, which is you can tell by the picture there. It's going to be anime related, I think. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see and find out what exactly is going on there. Cam, what do you have to mention?
Well, Top Lofty Lounge on Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. We talk about sci-fi. Sometimes we have movie nights. Sometimes we talk about tools a little bit. Sometimes we talk about what is sci-fi. Something
Zardov.
Zardov doesn't deserve it's its own category. But I have no idea what we're doing this week. But also next week, just as a reminder, at this same time and channel, we have Ceremonies of Light and Dark, episode 11, season 3, Babylon 5. And then Bad News Bards, as Jason and Jeff mentioned, on Sunday at 9 p.m., right before
Yes.
Top Lofty Lounge. So
Yes.
busy.
All right. Well, yeah. Cam basically mentioned everything for me. Next week on this show, Ceremonies of Dark and Light, Outpost Nerd will be our guest panelist. So we'll get a little bit of a different view. Dean has been fired for now. Even though he's been
a very tired Dean's been fired. Yes,
through past 3 days.
You need to recover.
What is it, 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning there, or something like that. So yeah. All right. So
It's
yeah,
only
that's what's
going
coming
on
up.
6:30.
Yeah, and we will have a show on Top Lofty this Sunday. It'll be about something as soon as I figure out what it's about. I'll let Cam know, and we'll put it out there. All right, that's it. I don't think I've forgotten anything. That should be everything. That's it for the show. A little bit long, but we hope you enjoyed it. It's a great episode. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe on the way out. Drop a couple comments if you want to talk about anything. If you disagree, agree with anything that we said. Yeah, that's about it. Enjoy. I hope you enjoyed the show. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
We'll see you.
Good evening. Ambassador Lando Molari here from Babylon 5. Please join me on the Babylon 5 retrospective on Science Fiction Snob, Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Central. Yes? Have I ever told you you're very cute for a Mambari?